Previously on Ballz.
You were close to me. I never thought we'd have a Miss South Africa from 2010, former Springbok and Graeme Pollock all sitting in the same studio having a chat about stuff. There we go. You see, Ballz brings people together.
And I got wise information from both of them.
Yeah, on what you should not marry. We'll chat about that later.
Okay.
Yes. Nicole can give her tips on who to avoid in the marriage stakes when it comes to sports people. What a cricketer's like, Graeme, rather stay away from them. What advice would you give Nicole?
Yeah, I think let them play their sport and get it out of the system and then settle down and everything will be okay.
When they're done.
Yeah.
When they're done, when they've had what's the word?
When they've had their fun.
Had their fun, yeah. When they've spread their wild oats.
That's it.
There we go. And also, I mean, look, it depends on what you're looking for. If you want some time to yourself and your mates, then a rugby or cricket is definitely the way to go because
I want to see him often though.
Who was it? Was it Sean or Jonty was saying at one stage he had 17 days in 1 year at home. 17 days at home.
Well,
I won't be able to.
I played for 27 years and I think I had 27 Christmases away. 27, because that's the busy time of all the cricket, whether it's tests or provincial, you're always playing over the Christmas and
yeah,
sure.
27 years.
Wow. Johnny, we'll hold off just on if you're waiting for your sports news and stuff. And there's nothing major breaking. I don't want to. Let's wrap it up with Graeme, and then we'll have a look at your sport. Then we'll get Owen in here. I want to ask you about those out of those 27 years you played, which was the happiest time for you? What was the time you enjoyed the most?
Not Christmas.
Because you've done the EP thing. You've obviously done the as Sheldon on Twitter says, still the second highest test average of all time at 67, right?
60.95.
60.95 is Graeme Pollock's test average. So still the second highest of all time. So you've had your test cricket period, then obviously the mean machine period. You went over and played a little bit of Packer as well.
No, I didn't play Packer.
Didn't you play Packer?
I was there. I had a 3-year contract. And I always say I was very happy not to play. There was a selection of the greatest quickies, all from different sides. And I can tell you, sitting in the sideline with Kerry having a bit of champagne and some salmon and whatever, it was far easier.
Did you never get to play
against
any of those guys?
It was all political. It was the Premier of Jamaica, a guy called Manley. I wasn't playing county cricket and it wasn't acceptable. That's why Eddie and Ricey and all the guys who were playing county cricket it was acceptable. And Dennis Hobson went over. He had a 1-year contract and we just had a holiday there, and I got paid out 3 years and I was very happy.
And you never played a game?
Never played a game.
You played in world teams though?
Played in about 3 or 4 different rest of the world sides. I played my first one. In fact, I saw the Nawab of Patordi's wife came out to a function and I played. He was my first captain in a world side in 1966 at Scarborough, where world side played England. That's when the first rest of the world sides came into effect.
So which of the legendary, I mean from that era, sort of late 70s going into the 80s, which of the guys did you never ever face of the I mean, did you face guys like Lilly and Thompson?
Thompson came a bit later. Lilly, we had a couple of tests and he came out here in 74 with the International Wanderers.
Okay, that's right.
So I had a couple of tests with him, but none of the Holding and Garner came out in a old side. But I mean, that was a different game.
Yeah.
You know, I just they were too good. In fact, if you look at how it all worked, you couldn't beat them because they were bowling 12 overs an hour times 6. That's 72 overs a day. If you're scoring 3 runs an over, which is pretty good against that lot, that's 210 runs in a day.
Yeah.
You got about 2 days to get 400, and you got 3 days left. So you cannot beat them.
Yeah.
The way it was structured. And whoever devised it 90 overs a day and brought spinners back, I mean, it changed the whole game. And in fact, I had to try and get hold of Shane Warne the other day, and I just think what an incredible contribution he had to world cricket, to being where it is, where Test cricket now, that spinners are part of the game, and they are becoming a very important part. And I think it's asked the question on these review system. These umpires are giving LBWs today, which
they would never have given before.
They would never have even thought of.
Are you pro or against the review system?
No, I like the review system, but I think it can be structured a little differently, that you just put your pad half down and it hits you in line and you're gone. I mean, it never happened. I think these guys have been shot out there pretty quickly.
What was the most, I mean, I'm trying to think, how was caught behind your sort of biggest way of getting out? Because it wasn't easy to get you out, but I really ever sort of remember you getting bowled a lot. So was it generally nicking off to? Is that your phone?
That's my phone.
It's in high demand.
Problem. There we go. Graeme just
drink and I
no, it's no problem. Very chilled here. There we go. What was your what are the way that used to sort of get you most about getting out?
Oh no, the worst way to get out is to be run out at the bowler's end. When the guy, especially when he hits a catch that's dropped, so he's not caught and bowled, the guy gets a finger to it and you are half backing up and you get run out. That's got to be the worst by far. Run out's bad enough, but run out at the bowler's end.
It's worse.
You don't want that to happen with a tail ender that's facing at that time. Can you imagine what he's feeling when he runs Graeme Pollock out by doing that? Oh my goodness.
I kept my run-outs to a minimum. I wasn't great between the wickets. I always just the story. When I came to Transvaal, I was playing with Mandy Yacht, and we were playing in one of these games, and Mandy hit one, and he went scampering there, and it was an easy 2, and he wanted 3 out of it. So he made me look a little bit silly there running between the wickets. I said, Mandy, it's not an athletics meeting. If I run 2 and you run 3, you're only going to get 2. So keep it
because I'm not going anywhere.
Whatever I run, you get.
and he listened as well. I'll just go back to the question. Which was the happiest period of your career?
I think the 10 years with the Mean Machine. It was a fantastic. We had sport. We had some characters. We enjoyed the cricket. We were successful. And it kept me going an extra 10 years. I mean, I played my last test against Aussies when I was 43, so it was quite a long innings and a very enjoyable one. And it was great
to see you actually. I mean, with all the discussion about the merits of the Rebel tours or not, it was great for a sort of a generation of young South Africans to be able to see you actually play in a competitive international environment, because the batting style and the eye and just the way the cover drives and stuff never changed from. I've seen some old black and white footage of you batting in some of those earlier tests, and that was exactly the same.
Yeah, I think so. It's just
the backlift just got shorter.
That's why I've stopped playing golf. I must have had the shortest backlift. I couldn't get it 150 meters.
But you almost had no backlift, and your timing was impeccable.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, it was a wonderful experience, and I just hope we're going through critical times in the administration, that there is sanity and they do the right things. There's an opportunity to put people who are involved in cricket and want to do the right things for cricket. I think the incredible thing is that we've maintained a level of success,
performance,
despite the 22 years of isolation and the changes that have come about. I think it's incredible, and all credit I say to Ollie and Joe Pominski and the players that used to come back in the isolation because they were playing for next to nothing.
Yeah.
And it was just a case of the game had to survive, and one day we will get back. Nobody knew how long it was going to take, and it took 22 years, which was longer than anticipated.
Yeah.
When you think that the first World Cup, when we came back in '92, that we got to the semis, and that's a really an eye-opener, and great thanks to those guys that stood by South Africa.
Absolutely. Do you and I know you probably get asked this question a lot, but I'm sure a lot of people want to know, and it's always a subject of debate, is that had that side, that South Africa, the players we had in that era when we weren't playing Test cricket, against the likes of that West Indies side of that time, Aussies had their moments as well. I mean, do you sort of think back and think about what if, or do you never?
Yeah, I think you do, but you realise that things had to change. You were never going to survive. We couldn't take on the world. We were trying to take on the world in every capacity and category. Whatever made the country change and democracy come to the fore, it had to happen. And I'm just thankful that I think the country after the 20 years is probably better than most people anticipated. I think if you'd asked them in 1992, what do you think about 2012? Well, we have our problems, but I think my only thing is that there's still, I think, too much criticism. People tend to sit back and critical of everything that's happening, rather just make a contribution, try and help it. There's no point in sitting back and criticizing and saying it's not going to get better, it's getting worse, it's a matter of time. And I think you've got to play a part. Every South African that's living in this country and wants to stay here forever and make it his life, you've got to play a part. And that's all I say on that politics side.
You were brought into the hierarchy and the setup a while ago. I mean, would you still like to sort of be actively involved in South African cricket now?
I would definitely. I've said all along, but you know, they do have a cut-off pre-1992. It's been stated quite categorically that as far as the cricket South Africa are concerned, it doesn't exist, and they try to wipe off all the statistics of pre-1992. It's just a pity, because we are South Africans.
You've got something to offer.
We've got, I mean, Procky's not doing anything, and Barry's not doing anything, and Barry was coaching Sri Lanka, and Eddie Bala went to Bangladesh. The only thing, it's a pity that these guys haven't been making a contribution to South African cricket. It's got to make it better. And everybody wants to. They're all South Africans. They have harbouring no grudges or anything. We were cricketers. We tried to have a walk-off in 1971. It wasn't easy in those days to be critical of the government. If you lived in that time, you were under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So we did what we thought we were allowed to, and we took some chances. But I suppose the other thing is that we could have done more. I think every South African, really, if you look in the 70s and 80s, could have made a better contribution, could have brought to the notice of people what was going on, and tried to help to improve it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that era, and then obviously with the hunger of those that were playing cricket to play international cricket, the Rebel Tours came along. Is that an example of something where maybe you look back and say we shouldn't have played, it wasn't helping, or do you think it actually helped speed up the process? Because there was a lot of protest around it, there were a lot of people that were not happy that the tours were happening, and eventually after a few tours, do you think it speeded up the process, or it made it worse?
I don't think it speeded up the process. It was going to happen at some stage. You needed some really good operators, but I think to have some incentive for young South African cricketers. I mean, they were going to England or going to New Zealand, irrespective of whether it's democratic or whether it wasn't. If they don't feel they're getting an opportunity at home, they're going to move. And I mean, you only got to look at the current England side. You got to look at a lot of, even the rugby guys are going to play elsewhere. Finance becomes quite a big factor. The exchange rate. Everyone says, "Why didn't I play county cricket?" Well, it was a 1 for £1 and a rand, and to go and earn £3,000 and to come back with 3,000 rand, you weren't going to go too far. Now when it was 12, 14, 15 to 1, it becomes worthwhile.
No-brainer, yeah.
So all those little things played a part. I had opportunities to play county cricket. I was offered, in fact, Nottingham in 1966 and Somerset in 69 and Kent in 70, and I had settled in. I was then had a nice job. I was married. I had kids. So my life was in South Africa, and it always stayed that way.
Who's the greatest player you played with? Would it be Barry?
Barry and Gary Sobers. I think they pretty much of a muchness. I mean, they were incredible cricketers and wonderful people. And I just always tell the story. I went to Barbados a couple of years ago, managing an over 35 side. And Gary had phoned me up.
Is that Stephen Jack going with you there?
Stephen
That's not cricket.
We had a few.
That's not cricket, Graeme.
No, there were the odd games.
The dark and stormy tour. Yeah.
But I went to Gary's house. He invited me to supper, and he had organised me picking me up at the airport on the tarmac, and he rushed me through customs. And in his house, he's got a little place in Barbados. At the dinner, there were 3 world cricketers who have been knighted, all in the one room.
Wow.
All West Indians. There was Sir Gary Sobers, there was Sir Everton Weeks, Sir Clive
Lloyd?
No, Sir Viv Richards.
Viv Richards, yeah.
Wesley Hall, the Reverend Wesley Hall was there. It was an incredible, and I just think that despite having come from South Africa and all that's happened in South Africa and all the politics and all that we've lived with, that the cricketers saw us in a different capacity, that we were seen and treated as ex-cricketers, and to get that invitation, I remember Pat Simcox and some of the guys said this is an incredible honour and a tribute to South African cricketers who were isolated, that they still got the respect, and that we were seen and invited. We had to think, Procky and I, with Rowan Canai. I mean, we played with him in the 60s, and he was very anti. We came from a country that had just formed a republic in 61, and they said, "You South Africans, we don't want anything to do with you." And when we were in Jamaica or Guyana, he invited Procky and I for supper. and he insisted on paying for the supper. And here again was a West Indian cricketer, a great West Indian cricketer, that saw fit to treat South African sportsmen in a different way. And that to me is one of the great things that's come out of it.
Absolutely, and I think it's also credit to the talent that we had in this country. That, you know, when you watch whether it's Channel 9 or you're watching whether it's Sky or BBC, some of the games in England, they still refer to some of the players of that time as amongst the greats, and that is great, because I mean a lot of those guys wouldn't have seen you guys play. As I say, we were so isolated, and yet they still talk about you guys in the same breath as some of the other international cricketers. And I think that is a credit to the talent that we had around that time.
Well, absolutely. You know, you just say that 1970 side. You don't realise a guy like Mike Proctor was batting at 8, Dennis Lindsay at 7. Mike Proctor nearly broke Bradman's record of 700s in a row when he was playing for Rhodesia. And he got 30 in his 7th innings, and I remember him telling a story at a function. And he was batting at 8. So when you just try and get a parallel, he batted at 4 or 5 for Gloucester. He made a packet of runs there. And in fact, when we played, Barry and Procky were playing for Gloucester in 1965, they both got 50 against the South African side, and there was a debate as to who was the better player. Yeah. And he was batting 8 in the Test side. So I mean, that gives you some idea of the strength and the depth of the side.
Talent. It's yeah, and I mean it's we'll never know from you know, because of the state of our politics of the day, that you know, so many grand. I mean, who knows what I mean, Basil D'Oliveira achieved so much playing for England. Who knows what he would have achieved if he was allowed to play for South Africa? You know,
he's a wonderful guy, and
how many other players that would have formed.
Yeah,
that.
there are a lot of them. And
yeah.
well, you see, I mean, Kepler made the move, and Alan Lamb and Robin
Smith,
they all did.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot blame them. There was an opportunity. They could get dual citizenship. They could qualify for playing elsewhere. They had no opportunity at home, so they had to go for it, and they all did well for South African cricket. I always saw them as South African cricketers, as I see those guys, Kevin Peterson playing, and Jonathan Trott, and these guys that not those that were born and left South Africa when they were 1 or 2 or 3,
Strauss,
but those that actually played their early cricket up to 18 and 20, that's when it all counts. That's when you learn the game, is from 6 to 18.
Yeah.
And they all learnt it in South Africa.
Who's the player you like to watch bat most at the moment? I've actually written a name down here. I'm just like to see. I'm playing a bit of Graeme Pollock Lotto here.
I enjoy Kevin Peterson.
What did I just write on the top of my page?
Kevin Peterson.
There, KP.
I just think, you know, people tend to see batting as not getting out, and I think that's a wrong perspective. Not getting out is obviously a part of batting, but taking the game to the bowlers, turning it around, being positive, putting the bowler under pressure. And that's always been my philosophy, and the guys that I like, your Brian Laura's, your Tendulkars, Pontings, they take it to the bowlers. And you know what you get churned out from the bowlers when they're under pressure? A fair amount of
more boundary balls.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was just going to say, because and I've said it numerous times as well, unless it's against us, I could sit all day and watch Kevin Peterson bat. I really could. I just think he's, you know, there is no comparison to the way he used to bat, but I had the same feeling with you. And there are very few batsmen that you can say, like Brian Lara, another one I could sit all day and watch him bat. You didn't want to see him do it against your own country, but I mean, he is one of those guys. He's just fluid. You know, when his confidence is going, wow, what a treat.
No, it's just, I just think, unfortunately, with all the one day and the 20 over, that these guys, they're not getting the big scores, they're giving it away. They're getting a quick 50 or 60 or 70, a great 70 instead of getting 170. Because batting is instinctive. And when you're used to hitting over the top and the guy suddenly gives it a bit of air, you say, here we go again, and you mishit it. I remember saying to Hansie Cronje many years ago, he got out to Warney, and I said, what was that all about? He said it was just instinctive. He gave one a little bit of air, and I said, here we go, over mid-wicket, got a top edge, batting is instinctive, and that's where the 20 over is going to be dangerous. It's not that you want to or you don't want to hit over the top. You have to. It just happens.
Yeah.
And it's quite scary.
It is. Graeme, it's been, I mean, we could sit all 4 hours and chat to you. There's just so much stuff, but it's great that you could come in and pop in and visit us. It's good to see you looking so well, and that things are going well for you. And please, the family all good? What's Anthony doing now?
He's a personal trainer. He's at Melrose Arch. He does coaching a little bit of cricket, but they all fit. They all enjoy it. I see them all.
Talented lad. I remember watching his first knock for Transvaal when they were playing down in Natal in the early 90s. And it was like, I mean, he had your pose. He obviously learned everything from Dad. It was like watching a reincarnation, but it just never the career just never took off for him.
Yeah, I think, a little bit of pressure.
Yeah.
But he's having a lovely life, and we see Sean pretty regularly. I think he's so embarrassed. Did you play in the Zimbabwe golf tournament?
No. I managed to escape.
Because he was playing with +1, and he came in with the 80 or whatever it did. It just shows what can happen. That's his home course.
I think we should phone him and ask him what happened there.
I think he still doesn't want to talk about it.
Because I spoke to Peter, his dad, a few days ago, and he said he popped into the house, but he did a quick detour, and he said, I've got something on. Don't ask me about the golf.
He had a bit of pressure because he was one of the favourites as well to win the whole thing. Graeme, thanks very much for joining us. Look after yourself, all the best, and thank you for all the great moments that me as growing up as a lighty got to at least watch you from Protea Challenge days all the way through to Nissan Finals. It was fantastic. So
thank you very much, and I wish your new station and your concept, it sounds very relaxed and very nice to be here. And
thank you very much, Graeme.
All the best.
Thank you very much, Graeme. Graeme Pollock joining us here in studio.
We the best on 3. 1, 2, 3. We the best.
2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mondays to Fridays live on Ballz.co.za. Ballz.co.za.